Good morning and welcome to Daylight Church Online. We're just so thankful that you're joining us this morning and hope that you have a great experience. We want to let you know that if you'll go to mydaylightchurch.com, there's a card there that says Online Church. And on the Online Church card, it'll tell you everything you need to know about being a part of our online church community, how you can get involved in small groups, how you can give financially, how you can be involved in the service projects that we do. So even if you're in Kansas or Cambodia, you can sure join us and be a part of our church. We'd like you to check it out there and introduce yourself. So go to mydaylightchurch.com and check out the online church card. Thanks. Good morning, Daylighters. Right now you're suspecting that something is off today. So we found out that we had a wedding this weekend here at the church in a reception, and they left a bunch of leftover Olive Garden. When I found out we were having Olive Garden, figured I'd get decked out a little bit. Fancy like date night at Applebee's, that kind of thing. No, Arsenal and Sichi are getting married today. And we're very excited about that. And we've got the tables set up. We're doing things differently today. We're going to do a session around the table where we get to know one another and discuss the last series that we've been on self-care. We've been talking about self-care recently, and particularly this passage where Jesus says the greatest command is that you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I'm not doing announcements today. You may have already figured that out. If you really want to know what's going on at Daylight Church, where do you look? mydaylightchurch.com right now. And the calendar's there, giving is there, the whole shebang is there, and so there's no sense in going through that today. We want as much time around the table as possible. But we've been talking about this passage and what it means to love yourself, because the greatest commandment of Jesus, upon which he says all the law and all the prophets, all the rules hang on this one command, is to love others as you love yourself. But there's this foundational aspect buried in that passage about loving yourself. What does it mean to love yourself? And we've been talking about self-care and how that relates to the Christian, and how does a Christian handle self-care differently? Is it just having the manna-petty when you want it, just buying the motorcycle when you want it, just taking the vacation when you want it, or is there more to it than that? We've talked about how it relates to the idea of when you get on a plane, they always say put on your own oxygen mask before you put on the oxygen mask of the other, because you'll be healthy and capable. So you can't put the oxygen mask on the other if you've passed out from lack of oxygen. And sometimes that's how life feels a little bit, is you feel like you're drowning, or you feel like you can't breathe, and you're no good to anyone under those circumstances. And so part of loving others well and loving God well is loving yourself well. And so we've talked about a bunch of different categories that I want to go into just very briefly, and then we're going to start our conversations. But we talked about physical health. We talked about eating well. We talked about exercising. So we talked about physical health as one of the aspects of self-care, of what it means to love yourself, is to take care of the body God has given you. We've talked about being centered, kind of meditation, grounding. We talked about a mantra or a prayer: sky above, earth below. Christ within me, love surrounds me. Sky above me, earth below me, Christ within me, love surrounds me. And just taking a few moments to become centered every day, and centered at particular times in your life when you feel scattered and chaotic, that just centering yourself, that you are surrounded by love, that Christ has created you as a masterpiece. Whit and I talked about this morning. God has created you as a masterpiece, and sometimes it can feel nuts and crazy, and there's just centering on that idea. We've talked about how Jesus needed his friends, and so do you. Friendship is a huge part of self-care. Taking good care of yourself is surrounding yourself with people who will feed you and supply what you need and supply you with love, and how important that is. We've talked about financial health, taking care of your finances, being a good steward of what God has given you, not making stupid decisions, not going into debt and becoming a slave to stuff, but having an open-handed view of finances and money and material things. We talked about the fruit of the Spirit and kind of developing your character, that part of self-care is not just like meeting your material needs or your comfort needs, but like growing as a person and thriving as a human being in love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. And then last week we talked about Sabbath, how one of the great commandments was that you take every seventh day and you do no work, and how notoriously awful Americans are at this. And we need to be able to, and you may not be able to take a full day, 1 out of 7, but you can work towards that. And you can certainly start trying to find moments in your life where you back off of work, and you back off of striving, and you back off of grasping. And we talked about that. And so today we're going to talk about it around the table. We're going to talk about it among you guys. And I see some tables with 3 and 4 people. And so if you guys don't like the people you're seated with for whatever reason, or If you'd like more people at your table, you can get up and move. Just don't make it weird. Here's some guidelines. So in the room, there are introverts, and some people are social introverts like myself, where I don't have any trouble being around a table, but there's other people who are like introverts that don't want to talk at all. Feel free to just say, I pass, and listen. Be a listener today. If that's you, and for whatever reason you're uncomfortable answering a question, or you just don't feel like revealing what's in your heart, or you're just nervous, or for any reason whatsoever, or you just want to be a listener today, just say, I pass, and that's totally acceptable. You can pass. Number 2 is don't pass go, do not collect $200. And what I mean by that is do not monopolize the table. Some of you are not introverts. Some of you, we're going to have a time limit on these conversations, and some of you will allow that clock to tick down really, really fast. You're going to see you're going to have about 8 minutes for the introductory topic. That leaves about, if you've got 4 people at the table, that leaves about 2 minutes per person. So do your best to remember this is a communal exercise and don't monopolize the conversation. And then for those watching online or those who will watch later, this kind of is going to feel weird because there's going to be nobody up here talking. There's just going to be people around the table that you won't even be able to see. I would encourage you, if you're with people, go ahead and have these conversations. If you're with a spouse or friends or children or whoever, go ahead and have those conversations. If you're not, get out your journal and journal your answers and meditate and contemplate what your answers would be. Good to go? Very cool. So the first question, we're going to have 8 minutes to discuss, and what we're going to do is you're going to go around the table, talk about it, and then we've got a mic that we're not going to pass. We're going to hold on to the mic. We never pass the mic in here. We're going to hold on to the mic, but we're going to give you an opportunity. If somebody at your table wants to share one of the answers, then there'll be that opportunity to do it. We'll take 1 or 2 tables and share that with the rest, then we'll move on to the next question. So, first question, of which you have 8 minutes to answer, so I'd like you to introduce yourselves briefly and then answer this question. You've got a great day off. How do you spend it? And go. And time. That was actually 8.5 minutes. I tricked you. So we've got a mic holder in the back. Let's have 1 or 2 people share what their perfect day off looks like. Who wants to go?
Anybody want to guess what I would do? Skydiving.
Skydiving. Anybody else?
No alarm clocks, no agenda.
Yeah.
I was talking to the people back in the sound booth in the coffee bar, and sleep came up quite a bit. Napping. Anybody else? One more real quick. Shay.
Most of the people at this table get massages on their day off.
Oh, yeah? Nice. All right. Next question. These are the topics we've talked about recently. Health and finances, friendships, centeredness, spiritual fruit, and Sabbath. Talk about which are the easiest and which are the hardest for you when it comes to self-care and why. You've got 14 minutes for this one. Go. And done. I'm enjoying the timbre of the conversation around the room. It's just nice to hear people talking and enjoying each other. So thanks for participating. Who wants to share something at their table that was brought up? I mean, Chris is raring to go back there with that mic. Look at that.
I think we had a common theme about a lot of people saw a difficulty with observing the Sabbath and having that day of rest or time of rest. We're such busy people.
Anybody else see that theme? A little bit. Anybody else?
I'm going to be kind of different. Sabbath actually comes easiest to me, and with that, finances comes almost the hardest because I don't really have a career that I care about or make a lot of money at, so it's easy for me to sort of separate from that and have rest, but with that, I have no money.
Anybody else? It's a very spiritual answer, Sydney.
I struggle with health based on the fact that I can't run and jump and do crazy things like I used to. But I'm thankful for the pool. And the easy part for me, I love centeredness. I love meditation and just watching the leaves fall. So.
Good. One more.
Me answer. No, I'm kidding. She didn't. But I think as, high-strung mothers, I don't know if there's any other high-strung mothers in here, but centeredness is one I really struggle with. I like to plan my family and their responses and their reactions, and that just doesn't work well for anyone. So centeredness is my biggest struggle.
Very good. Thank you guys for sharing. In the next question, I'll go ahead and show the question now, but then I want to comment on it. What is an action step you can take in the coming days? So, we talked about kind of strengths and weaknesses in self-care. What are you good at? What are you bad at? And it could be really tempting to say, this question necessarily applies to what I'm bad at. So Sydney might, for example, since she shared about finances, she might naturally gravitate towards finances being the area she wants to fix, and so then she would apply her action step towards that. I want to discourage you from thinking that way necessarily. It's fine to answer that way, but it's also important to celebrate and appreciate your strengths. And so if there's one area that comes naturally to you, one area that comes good to you, and it feeds your soul, and that's where you derive pleasure and derive joy and derive spiritual satisfaction and existential satisfaction, it's okay to build on that too. It doesn't necessarily mean you got to figure out the thing you're terrible at, and that's what you got to fix. It can be finding out the thing you're good at and making it even better. So don't necessarily gravitate towards the bad stuff. But on this question, what we want to talk about is action steps, meaning someplace I want to go. For example, at this table, Sabbath was a big deal. It's very hard to take a day off. So you could start thinking, I want to get to a point in my life where a year from now I have a day off. That might mean some job changes. It might mean some dropping off of volunteer work. It might mean putting the kids in front of a TV. There's all kinds of things it might mean. But you're going to set a goal, and then you're going to think about the steps that you'll need to take towards that goal. So financial, for example, you might say, I want to knock out $3,000 of my debt by this time next year. Well, what do you need to start doing to do that? Well, I need to stop spending in X category or Y category. Or I need to start making extra money, so I need to pick up a delivery job, or whatever the thing is. So when it comes to action steps, you see your goal, the thing you'd like to arrive at, and the action steps are the steps that you'll need to take to get there. And a lot of life works that way. If you want to thrive as a human being, a lot of it is, I see a vision, I see something that I want different in my life, and now I have to figure out what are the 12 things I've got to do to get there, and then that backs up to what do I have to do today, tomorrow. What are the things I need to do on my Monday? Who are the people I need to call? What are the things I need to write down? What are the choices I need to make? And so take a moment. There's some notepads on your table. There's pens in the back of your chairs. Write down someplace that you'd like to be different. When it comes to these categories that we've talked about, finances and friendships, and so you could set friendship goals, for example. I want to have a monthly luncheon with my 3 best friends. Could be one of the goals. So what are the steps to do? Well, make some phone calls, figure out where to go, put it on the calendar. So you're going to take about 3 minutes, or I'm going to say 2 minutes, 2 minutes to write something down, to think about something in a place you want to go. And then as a table, you're going to discuss what are the steps you need to take to get there, and nail down one action step that you can do coming up immediately, this week or tomorrow. Okay? And you've got 8 minutes. Go. I don't know about you guys, but our conversation was so good that we went over time, and I'm okay with that. Who wants to share real quick? We've got like 8 seconds to do this, so who wants to share real quick someplace they'd like to be a year from now and an action step to get there? Siglinda, can I share yours? Siglinda said she'd like to be more organized a year from now, and one of the things she's looking at is a pile of clothes that have been set on the couch for too long, and she's going to start with that pile of clothes. And so it really is that simple, guys, is to say, here's something that drives me insane. I'm going to tackle it. I'm going to do it. And friendships work the same way. It's like I've been wanting to be a friend with this person for a long time, and we keep talking about getting together for lunch. It's one thing to say, hey, let's get together. It's another thing to say, let's get together Thursday. That's what action steps are like. Did you have one? Go for it.
I've been working on this for a while now, pretty much since I became a mom, and I feel like a lot of moms will relate. There's always something to be done, and you can't just be present in the moment because there's always something that needs to be done. And I listened to a podcast, and basically the center point of it was that life continues. It doesn't stop. So if you work yourself to death and then go, I might have time on Friday to watch my favorite show, and you're consumed with the next thing, that show will never happen. So I have made one day a month be going out with a friend or just being a me day, and having not only a plan and sticking to that plan, but have a contingency plan, because it's really easy when you've been stuck in that mindset, when plans fall through, to just be like, oh, I'll just go back to what I was doing. And it's important to have a contingency plan to chill.
Very
so
good.
Hopefully in a year from now, it won't be as hard.
Yeah. My wife's dad always said, and I've said it in here many times, a person can spend their entire lives just beating the bushes back. There's always going to be the next thing that needs to take care of itself. And so some of these categories that we've talked about, finances and health and friendships, they're important things that are not necessarily urgent. It's rarely going to be urgent that you develop a friendship. But we can all say that it's always going to be important that you develop a friendship. It's rarely going to be urgent that you work out. But we can all say it's going to be important that you work out. And so you've got to let go of some stuff in order to prioritize and make space and contingency plans for the stuff that's important when it comes to self-care. I want to close with this thought. I felt like this was prophetic for us as a church and for the people listening and for humanity, is that you are worthy of love. If there's any message in the entirety of the cross and the Jesus thing, it's this, that God paid a great price because you are loved. You are worthy of love. And so when it says love your neighbor as yourself, it's nice that God didn't just say love your neighbor. There's something baked in there about intrinsic worth and intrinsic value. And I've talked to some of you to know that it's really hard for you to say, I love myself. I am worthy. I'm a masterpiece, like Whit and I talked about right before this. You are a masterpiece created in the image of God with the capability of loving and making a difference in other people's lives. You are worth a day off. You're worth the mani-pedi. You're worth the vacation, but you're also worth the health. You're worth eating well. You're worth getting your finances in shape. You're worthy of good friendships. And if there's anything I would encourage you at all, is just to ask God for revelation on that, to say, God, show me that I'm worthy of love. And I believe he'll do that, and it will change your life.